Hey Star Trek fans, Dan Gunther here. We were just treated to a nice surprise in the past couple days. The new Star Trek Discovery Season 5, the final season trailer. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a shot-by-shot breakdown of the trailer. Some pretty cool stuff to find in this trailer, a couple little Easter eggs, but one really big revelation that I was not expecting hints that maybe the Mirror Universe will be playing a role this season. Let's check it out, and I'll wrap up with some of my final thoughts at the end of the video. To start the trailer off, we have this shot of the USS Discovery in this blue nebula approaching a space station. This station doesn't look particularly Starfleet to me, not sure about the design of this or where this comes into play. And over this shot, we also have a Burnham voiceover saying, "It has been a hell of a journey." Continuing the voiceover, Burnham says, "But everything ends someday," over this shot of the nebula out a window with the reflection of Burnham in it. Next shot, we have Discovery and several Starfleet vessels at Federation headquarters. The Discovery is in the process of heading out with the Spore drive spinning up. The Saru voiceover says, "The Discovery is my home." And the next shot makes my little shipper heart happy. We have Saru and Tarina, with Saru wearing a blue costume, and the voiceover continues with Saru saying, "My family." Now, I love this. I love that we get to see Saru and Tarina's relationship continue to develop. The seeds that were planted in season 3, the growth of that we got in season 4 seems to be continuing into season 5. Now, the interesting thing about this shot is Saru's costume, normally wearing the kind of red captain's uniform. We see that he is wearing this blue costume here. Can't quite tell if it's a Starfleet uniform. It does not look like it. And I'm wondering if this is related to that synopsis we got of episode 1 of season 5, Red Directive. So the synopsis I'm talking about goes like this. Captain Burnham and the Discovery are sent to retrieve a mysterious 800-year-old Romulan vessel until the artifact hidden inside is stolen, leading to an epic chase. Meanwhile, Saru is offered the position of a lifetime, and Tilly's efforts to help pull her into a tangled web of secrecy. Now, I'm wondering if Saru's position of a lifetime is something in government or possibly an ambassadorial position. That would make sense given the closeness that he's getting with Tarina. I personally am putting money on that. I think we're going to see Ambassador Saru, and we see the kind of beginnings of that playing out in this shot here. However, before Saru moves on to whatever it is he's going to move on to, he is still a Starfleet officer, and we get this shot of Saru and Burnham wearing Starfleet away team gear on this alien landscape overlooking this fortress with twin moons. Now, the feature in this shot that really stood out to me is what looks like a huge statue in the background. It looks like a humanoid statue kind of looming way off in the background there, and I'm wondering if these are some ancient ruins or possibly a currently thriving civilization. I'm not sure, but it kind of has a ruin feel to me that they're maybe investigating. And over that, we've got a voiceover by Culber saying, "We've always been able to find answers together." In the next shot, we have Book in the Discovery shuttle bay. There's a large planet or possibly an asteroid visible outside the shuttle bay door, which they always seem to keep open for some reason. And then we see the opposite shot, which looks to be from the same scene, with Burnham in the shuttle bay looking towards where Book is, this very pensive look on her face. Next shot, we see the bridge of the Discovery with the crew taking stations. There are several people here who I wasn't able to identify, but several familiar faces and a new one that we're going to talk a little bit more about later. We have visible Tilly, Stamets, Book, Captain Burnham, Linus back here, and also the new character played by Callum Keith Rennie, Captain Rayner. Now, over these previous 3 shots, we have a voiceover by Tilly saying, "Being a part of a crew, being where you need to be when you need to be. That's Starfleet." And this next little exchange between Burnham and Saru in the away team gear, possibly getting ready to go on the mission that we see them in that previous shot. Burnham says, "Last dance," and Saru says, "I shall follow your lead." Now, I was thinking about this, and they're kind of leaning into the final season imagery here in language, And at first I thought the Last Dance thing might be referring to the fact that this is the final season. However, while they were filming most of season 5, they did not know that this would be the final season. And according to some comments by Doug Jones recently, they basically shot kind of an addendum that was tacked on, in his words, to the final episode to kind of make it a series finale. So I'm thinking in that context, maybe the trailer's trying to make us think differently, but in the context of Burnham saying to Saru Last Dance, perhaps this is again a reference to the new position that Saru is taking and he's going to be moving on, not necessarily that this is like the final mission of the Discovery or something like that. So at first I was thinking, wow, that maybe that's from like the very end of the season, or they added some shots here and there to kind of throughout the season make it feel like the final mission of the ship. But I actually think, like I said, this is referring to Saru in particular. Now, this next shot is really interesting. We have the Discovery Spore jumping away from this planet. This planet, though, if you look at it closely, there's this large anomaly, this large whirlpool-looking thing on the surface, which would have to be massive given that it takes up that much of the face of this planet. A large whirlpool, it's kind of roughly hexagonal in shape. I don't know what's going on here, if it's some sort of weird energy anomaly or if that's supposed to be water or exactly what is going on there, but it looks very cool. I'm really curious about this. Next, we get a screen saying on April 4th, referring, of course, to when season 5 will start to drop, with 2 episodes dropping on April 4th on Paramount+. And we get this really interesting rocky planet surface, these tall towers of rock. Now, my first thought seeing this was actually last night, I watched the first episode of the new Netflix live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender, and this kind of reminded me of where the Air Nation people live. And I don't know, that kind of struck me. I didn't look it up to see how close they look, but definitely the feeling I got here. But anyway, there's these tall towers of rock here, and the next shot we see these figures standing on a planet's surface looking up at a moon or other nearby body. From the silhouettes, this looks like Book and Burnham here. Initially, when I looked at the shot, I only saw Book, but I didn't notice Burnham off to the side there, but it appears to be the both of them there. And in the next shot, we get the return of Kovich. David Cronenberg back for season 5, which we did know, but I am still always really happy to know that he's back in Star Trek. Really cool, his character. And we have his voiceover and finishing the thought here where he says, "The greatest treasure in the known galaxy is out there." And I think this line, or something very like it, was in the previous trailer spoken by Kovich as well. Now, the first we see of 2 of the villains of season 5 in this trailer are from behind here. We have Mol and Locke. I'm still not sure how to pronounce his name. La'ak or Locke. It's L''AK. They're standing here before this door that's slowly opening. And then we get a good look at this puzzle box. Now, we got a peek at this in a previous trailer. We get a bit of a better look at it here. There are hands manipulating it. These hands appear to be La'ak's. That would be my guess. They're these kind of pale hands, the same color as his skin. I love this. This is a cute little Easter egg here. This wider shot of the box where we get this really good look at it with the strange symbols and its opening. On the table are several other items, including, if you'll notice right there, a self-sealing stem bolt from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So a nice little Easter egg there if you catch that. Next, we get a bit of an upside down perspective shot of this. I'm just going to say it, this quarry in Ontario, where they have used it to represent several planets over the seasons of Discovery. It's like a few of those places around LA that you always saw in the other Star Trek series. This always just kind of looks the same, but they're back to film at least a little bit more there. We have this away team of Burnham, Culber, and Book, with the 3 of them turning in surprise at something behind them. Then we get the title card, "Their Final Adventure Begins." And we see this huge library, which looks familiar to me. I feel like I've seen this before, not necessarily in Star Trek, but this looks like a real location that they modeled this on or based this on or something. If anybody knows, let me know in the comments. This looks weirdly familiar. Then we get this shot of Burnham, who looks like she might be undercover. And speaking of undercover, this next shot is of Tilly and and another person investigating this rune or ancient marking. I'm not sure on the other person. They look kind of like Adira, but the hair is wrong. And of course, they have these facial markings. So I'm not sure who this is. It might be somebody who's a member of this particular species who looks like this, but they do have the same facial markings that in the next shot we see on Tilly's face. So she is possibly also undercover, wearing some sort of alien garb, not her Starfleet uniform. I'm wondering, if this is some sort of undercover mission and she's been made up to look like a different species. So over those previous 4 shots, we also have a voiceover from Burnham where she says, "We're on the search for one of the greatest powers ever known." So I mentioned that synopsis of episode 1 a little while ago where it mentions the Romulan ship. This next shot, this corridor, I believe to be from that Romulan ship. We saw a bit of this in that first clip that was released quite a while ago. In this corridor, we see these 2 figures beam in. They're wearing helmets, and in the next shot, we see these 2 helmets opening, and it's Mol and La'ak, these 2 villains once again, with their scanners reading the atmosphere on the ship saying that it is safe to breathe. We get this voiceover saying, "It could be very dangerous in the wrong hands." I'm not sure who this is. This might be La'ak. It's a voice that I don't recognize. I don't think that it's Callum Keith Rennie as Captain Rayner. It does not sound like him. The only other new character I think it could be is La'ak. Speaking of whom, we see him brandishing a weapon. This corridor looks Starfleet, but there is a detail in this corridor that really stood out to me, and I had to look twice to make sure. Look very closely at the computer terminal in the background. That appears to be the Terran Empire logo, the one that was designed for Discovery we first saw in season 1. What is going on there? Are they in the mirror universe? Is this a ship from the mirror universe? I have no idea what's going on here, but this is my biggest takeaway from this trailer. This was the thing that surprised me the most in this trailer, is the Terran Empire logo, and we'll see it again in a shot coming up here. We have Burnham and Book in the same ship firing phasers. And then again, another shot of La'ak holding up this device. And in this shot, the Terran Empire is also visible on that screen in the background. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think is going on, how you think the Terran Empire figures into the plot of this season. Very interesting. I was not expecting that at all. Now, like I said, in this shot, we see La'ak holding up a device. And from there, we go to this shot of ships exploding. This may be related, maybe not. The trailer makes it look like him holding this device, maybe activating it is what causes this explosion. It's a trailer though, right? They might be events that take place very far apart in the season. They may have no relation to each other whatsoever. But regardless, we have these explosions. I can't tell what these ships are. There are these small identical ones on the left, and then these larger ships on the right. There's possibly more than one of them exploding, but as the shot goes on, this turns into a huge conflagration, a very large explosion, taking out what looks to be multiple ships. Now, I've mentioned Captain Rayner, played by Callum Keith Rennie, newcomer to Star Trek. We got a quick shot of him here yelling very loudly in what looks to be rage. From there, we see Burnham viewing this symbol on a pop-up monitor. Possibly the ones that come out of their comm badges. This is possibly a clue to this ongoing mystery. And we see Stamets assembling these pieces, possibly relics, maybe an ancient device of some kind. And then we get this shot of Stamets holding this small artifact. And over these shots, Stamets' voiceover is saying, "This clue is the most important thing. We have to keep it safe." Next, we get a shot of Adira, Reno, and Tilly in the corridor of the Discovery. Reno has some sort of toolkit. I am so glad to see Tig Notaro back again this season. I love the character of Jet Reno. She is just a delight. So happy to have Tig back again this season. Next shot, I have termed the Super Mario jump shot, with Burnham doing this jump here. At first, when I saw this shot, I thought it was underwater, but it looks to just be in slow motion. I'm thinking there's debris or possibly snow or precipitation of some kind falling here. It initially, like I said, looked like it was underwater, but I don't think that's the case. And then we get a shot of Burnham, the same from the first trailer, saying her catchphrase, "Let's fly." So the next section features this desert chase scene with these snowmobile type vehicles, like the promo shot we got from way back when, with Burnham on one of these machines. It's a crazy frenetic chase scene of some kind. Star Trek has never been the best at these sorts of things. This looks pretty good though, at least it's not just, the dune buggies like we saw in Star Trek Nemesis. It's something different. So the action looks good. It looks frenetic. It's hard to tell from these shots who's who or what the factions are, exactly what's happening. There's this huge, what looks like maybe a sandstorm behind them or some kind of activity causing all of this sand to be roiled up here. But we get another angle on it and we see from in front they're being fired at by this ship, and it looks to be possibly Mole and Locke's ship that we saw in the earlier released scene with Burnham riding it at warp. And indeed, the next scene shows their ship at warp, and it does look like it could be that same ship that was firing on the vehicles in the previous shot. So next we get a shot of Owoshikun on the bridge, and then Discovery flying through this kind of tempest here, this nebula or some region of space, and it looks to be getting hit by these energy tendrils that are possibly doing damage of some kind. And then we get this shot, which is another fascinating one that I don't know what's going on here. We have Burnham standing in front of this strange mass, this blob of something which appears to be injecting pods or drones or something like that. This looks interesting, and I love seeing things like this that are new and different in Star Trek. Maybe it's some sort of weapon or reconnaissance thing that was deployed by, spitting this blob of something onto the planet's surface, which then releases these drones or whatever they are. This is all just speculation based on this, half a second shot here, but it looks pretty interesting. Next, we see Saru diving for cover under fire on the planet's surface, and this cool shot of Discovery flying past what looks to be two black holes or singularities. The black holes looking very similar to the ones that were modeled, for example, for the film Interstellar, that kind of new understanding that we have of what singularities or black holes look like. We get these very quick shots here that go by really fast, kind of blinking you miss it, but I have paused and looked and grabbed a shot of each of these. We have this space station that we quickly zoom away from. This might be kind of modeled on the old style Starfleet stations that we saw in early seasons of Discovery and on Strange New Worlds. I'm not sure. It looks maybe a little bit different. It's hard to tell. Then we get this close-up of Saru's eye with his pupil dilating wildly. We've seen this before where he's using his superior vision to get some sort of information. This shot of Burnham looking up at something amazing, I'm assuming. We have Mole here firing a phaser, and this looks to be in that same ship that we saw La'ak in earlier with the Terran Empire logo in the background. And then we have this shot of this swarm of smaller ships flying away from what looks to be a mothership or a carrier ship possibly that held these smaller ships, and they're all firing on Discovery as she tries to get away. This quick shot of a creature chasing and attacking Book. This looks to be from the second clip that was released some time ago, featuring Burnham and Book facing off against these crazy creatures that were shooting some sort of energy at them. And then this shot of Burnham jumping or being thrown or something. I'm not sure where this is. I'm going to be honest, and I really hope it's not some crazy cavernous interior of Discovery that we haven't seen before. I don't know. This doesn't look like Discovery. And it also looks like maybe gravity is acting kind of weird. She's kind of jumping from one plane and maybe looks to be kind of reorienting and going towards another plane of gravity or something. I'm not sure, but it looks like some crazy cool action sequence we're going to see. And next we get a number of shots of various characters from Discovery with Burnham's voiceover over top saying, "My crew, the family I found in Starfleet, we made a pretty good team." And we see, of course, Burnham and Book, Burnham and Saru, Adira, Jet Reno, Culber and Stamets, and finally Tilly and Burnham. And then the final shot of the trailer, Discovery approaching this planet. Looks kind of like a desert planet, kind of desertish, maybe Vulcanish, not quite as red as Vulcan though, but my money is on this being the planet from the chase scene with the snowmobile type vehicles earlier. So I think that's what we're seeing in the trailer here. And then of course the final title card saying Star Trek Discovery, the final season, streaming April 4th on Paramount+. Well, there you have it, the final trailer for Star Trek Discovery Season 5. As I said, the final season, really kind of leaning into that idea of it being the final season. Some stuff there showing that they're wrapping things up. Again, as we learned earlier, though, the extra shots that they did for Season 5 are likely just a bit that they kind of added to the final episode to make it more like a series finale. So not sure how integrated that's going to be into the season. Will be interesting to find that out. But of course, the big revelation of the Terran Empire logo in some of those shots there, with the villains of the season being aboard what looks to be like a 23rd century starship of some kind. Really curious as to how that's going to figure into the plot. Will we, for example, see Prime Lorca, the fate of whom we still don't exactly know? There have been some hints in some novels, but nothing canon as far as what exactly the fate of that character is, other than, you know, the line that he must be dead because it's so brutal in the Mirror Universe. I think we all know that there's more to that story than that. So that would be really cool if that's a thread that they pick up on in Season 5. The other big question I have for Season 5 that wasn't addressed at all by this trailer, will we see how the Short Treks episode Calypso figures into the final fate of Discovery, with it sitting somewhere for 1,000 years with Zora aboard, evolving, I guess. I don't know that we'll ever actually see the resolution of that story. I really hope that we do, but it really does remain to be seen at this time. Well, thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciated it. Let me know if there's anything in that trailer that I missed that you would like me to talk about. Please let me know that in the comments below. Thanks as always to the Patreon supporters for all of their help in bringing these videos to you. I could not do it without you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To everyone else, thank you so much for watching. I truly do appreciate that. That is the best thing you can do for this channel, is keep watching. So if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications for when a new video goes up. I've been Dan Gunther. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, as always, live long and prosper.